Hey guys, the next build video is about to follow for the second floor. Now you will see that there's kind of a gap there that will be actually probably built in the final build video for this one. I'll be doing like the roof and that section, which is actually just stairs. It's a very boring section. Doesn't need to be built, and especially seeing as it's built for the second and third floor as one solid piece. Um, Yeah, so as to follow will be the build. As you can see, Slimer's been out of my hair today. He's got a new friend that he's playing with, and they keep out of trouble, chase each other around the house a little bit, and you know nothing major. Anyways, now that we have the intro out of the way, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys all have a good time. Bye.
The way I was introduced to the Ghostbusters was actually the cartoon The Real Ghostbusters, which aired between September 13th of 1986 and October 5th of 1991 and had 140 episodes. It was produced by Columbia Pictures Television and DIC Enterprises and was actually followed up by a direct sequel, The Extreme Ghostbusters, which ran from September of 1997 to December of 1997 and had only 40 episodes. These cartoons followed the continued adventures of Egon, Ray, Winston, and Peter, and occurred mainly after the first movie, with Season 5 taking place after the second movie and adding in cast member Louis Tully. Now, there were other changes that actually took place after Season 2, when the Q5 Corporation was called in to try and make the show a little more child-friendly. These changes did cause Michael Straczynski to leave the show, who was at the time a head writer. And some of these changes are things like rounding out Janine's glasses because kids find sharp things scary, as well as getting rid of her Boston accent and making her more motherly. They thinned Ray out. Kid protagonists were added with the addition of the Young Ghostbusters, and Slimer received his own half-hour TV show. To continue talking about the production, I do want to bring up the voice actors. We have Winston, who in seasons 1 through 3 was voiced by Arsenio Hall, and 4 through 7, Buster Jones. Ernie Hudson did try out for the part and lost to Arsenio Hall, who went on to, do a lot of live action stuff in his own talk show. Buster Jones was already a prolific voice actor and actually voiced one of my favorite characters on Transformers, Blaster. Lorenzo Music did the voice for Peter Venkman for seasons 1 through 2, and then was followed by Dave Coulier for the remaining seasons. There is some thought to a rumor that Lorenzo was replaced by Uncle Joey due to Bill Murray remarking that Venkman sounded a lot like Garfield, who at the time was actually being voice acted by Lorenzo Music. Ray was given to us by Megatron himself, Frank Welker, who also voiced several other roles at the time, such as Stay Puft and Slimer. Egon was given life by Maurice LaMarche, who himself has such a large resume that it was hard to pick one or two other big roles. But one such role was Brain from Pinky and the Brain. Roger Bumpus joined as Louis Tully in seasons 5 through 6, and Janine's voice was given by Laura Sumner in seasons 1 and 2, and seasons 3 through 7 was fulfilled by Kath Soucie for changes mentioned earlier. This show was well received for most of its run, with, I feel, a big part being how believable the characters' interactions were. This was actually due to the voice actors all doing the recordings together rather than separately, as is the norm. Another interesting change the show made was to the industry in general. Originally, writers on animation shows were required to register to the Cartoonist Guild, but by showing that animations followed the same level of work as live-action dramas with storyboarding and writing, it helped to actually push the precedent, allowing animation writers to join the Writers Guild of America. Finally, another interesting tidbit before I talk about my favorite episodes, the reason being the title of The Real Ghostbusters. At the same time as the cartoon, Funimation Company was making a relaunch of an old show of theirs, Ghostbusters, 2 words. In order to avoid any legal issues, and as a dig against Funimation, who were, admittedly trying to cash in on the whole Ghostbusters craze at the time, they added the real to the title, as Funimation was not the real Ghostbusters. Now, there's a lot more that you can find on the production side of things, Look up a interview by J. Michael Straczynski dealing with the Real Ghostbusters, and you can actually find a lot more also about the Q5 changes that took place. But what I want to talk about is my favorite episode of the Real Ghostbusters. It aired originally in November 22nd of 1986, and it is Season 1, Episode 11, Citizen Ghost. This story entails the details as to why Slimer is a part of the group, as well as what happened to the Ghostbusters after their confrontation with Gozer. It begins with an interview of Venkman, and during that interview, Slimer shows up, and the lady who is interviewing Venkman asks why there's a ghost living with the Ghostbusters. And then we begin the tale, which is a flashback. It starts off with the Ghostbusters returning back to the firehouse covered in goo from the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And Egon asks Venkman to destroy these beige jumpsuits due to the exposure to psychokinetic energy. At the same time, it is said that it's a good thing that the new jumpsuits arrived, which explains why the new jumpsuits are all different colors. But rather than destroying the jumpsuits, Venkman stashes them next to the containment unit, which at this time is now fixed, even though there is a crack that has been missed. So while the jumpsuits are sitting next to the containment unit, they begin to absorb the energy that is being leaked. During this time, Slimer begins to haunt the firehouse due to the fact that the Ghostbusters are actually the first people to have paid attention to him, banishing the loneliness that he had been feeling. Slimer interacts with each of the Ghostbusters during this time, with the only one seeming to be against Slimer possibly being around them being Venkman, who of course was slimed in the Sedgwick incident. As this is occurring and the jumpsuits have now absorbed enough energy, they take on a life of their own and are now each worn by a spectral Ghostbuster who carries their own spectral proton pack. The Ghostbusters and the spectral Ghostbusters have a couple of skirmishes. During this time, it is discovered that the use of their proton packs causes the spectral Ghostbusters to weaken. They do take off eventually in the Ecto-1, leaving the Ghostbusters behind with only one spare proton pack that has a half charge. Upon realizing that the spectral Ghostbusters do weaken up when they use their own proton packs, the Ghostbusters decide that they must draw fire in order to weaken the spectral Ghostbusters enough to be captured. Slimer, realizing that the Ghostbusters might be injured by the spectral Ghostbusters, ends up rushing out and drawing fire upon himself. He does eventually get injured, which actually draws Venkman's ire, showing that the friendship with Slimer does go both ways. The episode ends with the Spectres captured and Slimer's adoption by the Ghostbusters, and discovering that the article, which was supposed to be about the Ghostbusters, is now completely about Slimer. I love this episode due to how it tied into the movie and how creepy the spectral Ghostbusters were in their appearance and sound. This episode did stick with me from childhood and was actually the first episode that I thought of when I decided to do this. Now, there is someone who has very kindly supported me as I goof off on YouTube, and he told me once that one of his favorite characters on the cartoon was Janine. I did try to find an episode that he had mentioned to me, but was unable to do so. But as thanks to him, I do want to bring up a Janine-centric episode. I decided to talk about Janine's Genie, which was fun and had me smiling when I watched it recently. It has Janine joining the Ghostbusters on the job, and since they couldn't receive payment, she ends up choosing a lamp for their payment. They return to the firehouse, and she ends up rubbing the lamp, releasing a genie. After releasing this genie, she receives her first wish, and she decides that she wants to be the boss of the Ghostbusters. As she enjoys this newfound position, she decides to take a second wish, which is having Egon fall in love with her. After receiving this wish, the Ghostbusters with Janine head out to another job, during which Egon lavishes her with adoration. The show does continue on, and you discover that the wishes are actually causing a gateway to open, allowing spirits to leave the realm that they are trapped in and enter Earth basically on vacation. The Ghostbusters, realizing that there are a lot of spirits, also then realize that it is the lamp acting as the gateway, allowing them to escape. They devise a way to reverse the gate and return all the spook specters, spirits, and genie, but it requires attaching some cables directly to the lamp. The Ghostbusters are trying to decide who's going to do it when Janine, feeling responsible, rushes into the firehouse, pushing past the genie and receiving help and holding him back by the other Ghostbusters. She completes her task, connecting the wires, and this ends up restoring all the spirits and genie to the lamp and reverses her wishes. The Ghostbusters, being very proud and amazed by her bravery, do offer her an official position as a Ghostbuster, but Janine decides to remain the secretary. As I said, this was a fun and exciting episode to watch, and it showed the true reason why Janine is so respected by the team. Besides her no-nonsense attitude and snark, she is a strong, brave, and at the end of the day, true friend to the Ghostbusters themselves. Now, unfortunately, this series is no longer available on Netflix, but you can buy it on Google Play and Amazon. And Extreme Ghostbusters is available on Hulu.